Welcome to the Rising Phoenix Rise, Recover and Rebuild podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Demiri, founder of Create Again, Breakup, Mindset and Life Coaching. A large number of people are either thinking about separating, are in the middle of a separation, or are already divorced. Chances are that you're in one of those categories, and if not, know someone that is. While separation and divorce is a normal part of life, there's still a stigma attached, and no one really talks about what it is like to go through this experience, and even less what to do to rebuild yourself. I will be interviewing mothers and business owners, lawyers, and a variety of other people I believe can provide some tips and insight into their lives, and I'm certain you will be able to relate to some of it. If you feel that anything in today's episode resonates with you, make sure to book your 30-minute complimentary session with me today. I would love the opportunity to be part of your rebuilding journey. But now let's get started with today's guest.
Today's guest is Yulia. Yulia is a former financial advisor with over 5 years' experience in the industry. Last year, she took her love for helping people and turned her profession towards money coaching, helping women keep, save, and create more wealth for themselves without giving up the life they love. So she founded Madame Wealth and changed career to become a money mindset coach. She's a self-professed huge nerd when it comes to not only money and wealth creation, but also learning more about people's behaviors. So she uses money typing and human design as tools in her work to help others learn about themselves, their minds, and what's stopping them on their journey to financial abundance. The first time I met Yulia was at a workshop. We started talking and decided to stay connected. We actually meet on a regular basis and work on our own coaching businesses next to each other. Owning a business can sometimes be very lonely, and we thought, why not do our own thing, but doing it surrounded by like-minded people. Hi, Yulia.
Hi, Jen.
Thanks for being with me today. Well, let's jump.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. Well, let's jump right in. So, after such a long time in the financial advising industry, what made you change career to become a money mindset coach?
What made me change careers? It was really interesting because I never actually thought that I would change careers. I've been striving to become a financial advisor for a very long time. Then finally I became one and I was loving what I was doing. But it's just the place that potentially I was working in wasn't quite where I wanted to stay for a long time. So I thought, all right, well, it's time to do something different. The interesting thing, though, is that I've for a long time knew I wanted to start a business. But it wasn't a lot of the times what happens is someone decides to start a business and then they kind of start planning for it. Whereas for me, it kind of happened the other way around. I didn't know when I was going to start a business, how it was going to happen, but I essentially started to plan for it in my head in a way and do all the things that I needed to do money wise and financially to get myself to a point where I felt comfortable to do that at any time. So when I decided to actually start the business, the decision took probably a couple of weeks to make before I actually put the actions in place and was able to do that. And yeah, I decided to start a business as a financial advisor with coaching in it. And then very quickly realized that that's not necessarily what I want to do. And I realized how much or how rewarding it was actually coaching women and getting them to a point where they feel comfortable to maybe even go and see an advisor later on. So yeah, that I realized that was really rewarding. And yeah, that was kind of my very sort of summed up version of what I went through to start the business and how I got into coaching instead. But a big step, but it's a big difference, although it seems like it's very similar.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know how you feel. Like I had not planned on, starting Create Again. And then I just fell into it because it was just so much what I was passionate about. So yeah, I can absolutely relate to that. Now, as a wealth coach, what is it that you see women struggle with the most when it comes to money?
Yeah. So when it comes to money, I would say this is probably a couple of layers deeper. So women might not necessarily realize that that's what it is that they're struggling with, because it might appear in different ways. But I think that a lot of the times it's the lack of confidence or the lack of self-belief that they're able to take their money and turn things around for themselves, or to start really growing their wealth and doing something different with their money. And like, if we think about it, and you might agree with me, Jen, is in our society, we've kind of been brought up to almost fit a little bit into a stereotype of, we're not necessarily the ones who should know much about money, or like, oh, that's, it's not that out of the ordinary to kind of say, oh, the male is the one that might be more on top of, investing or knowing exactly where the money is. So it kind of sometimes easy for us to fall into that stereotype and become a little bit more innocent with money. And with that comes a little bit of that lack in self-confidence, lack in self-belief, of feeling like, okay, I can actually do something with that money. I can actually start understanding investments on a different level, so that I can start growing my wealth a bit more. Or simply just being on top of, where the money is and how to manage it in a way that doesn't make us feel guilty, shameful, worried, feeling insecure. Like, all those things are very common with women, and it all stems from that lack of self-belief.
Yes, I absolutely
Yeah.
agree with that. And when you were saying the way we are brought up, or the society that we were raised in, I mean, my parents were always about making sure that I do know my finances, and I know how to save, and I know how to budget. But in terms of actual wealth creation, in terms of investment, super, all that sort of stuff, investment properties, or stocks, or any other way of, creating wealth, yeah, I have never learned much about it. And I think, even in schools, we don't really learn the
Yeah.
basics on how to do that. I mean, we don't even learn how to open up a bank account. I mean, I understand that's something that our parents should teach us, but somewhere I think all of that gets missed.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Can I actually add to that?
Yeah.
This was a little while ago. I was talking to two of my friends. So I was sitting there with two of my friends, and one of our friends was she was talking about her kids. Her kids are like 7 or something like that, and she's telling us how, like, she's starting to teach them about, the fact that you save more money, and like, if once you save it, you might be able to buy the things that you want, or you might even invest it, those things. And when she was explaining it, she said, all those things your parents would have taught you. She said it just like very casually, and both me and my other friend turned to each other and were like, your parents would have taught you. Our parents haven't taught us that. We had to like figure it out on our own. So that was a moment that was really fascinating, and it reminded me of kind of what you're saying now. It's like, I feel like it's almost like there are a group of people that feel it is just normal information that parents share that stuff with them, and then there's probably an even larger majority of people where that information just wasn't passed on. And that's why the thing, like, just because we're adults doesn't mean we actually know what we're doing with our money, or know how to deal with money, or how to feel comfortable, not just in managing it, but also growing it as well. So I just thought that was a really good example to show sort of the two differences. Yeah.
And again, on top of that as well, like, assuming that parents share that information, maybe even our parents didn't know how to do it, and they had to figure it out
That's right.
for themselves, and then taught us what they figured out for themselves, but couldn't actually add anything to it. So yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah,
very
that's
interesting.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's never about sort of like the parents doing something that they shouldn't have. They were only passing on the information that they thought we needed.
Yeah.
So it kind of, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Now, I guess from that, what areas should women pay close attention to when it comes to securing their finances, um, either as singles or even before they're starting to think about separation, or during or after a separation? Sort of what are really areas that are easy for us to look at and pay attention to?
Yeah, definitely. So no matter sort of what stage you're in, having a real, I think having a really good grasp of what it is that you have right now, um, in the closest sense possible. So really, really becoming aware of everything that's going on with your money is really important. And what I'm really realizing is that that's a really difficult thing for some people, um, because there can be either years of avoidance that's been there that's stopping them from even sort of looking at, their bank account, let alone sort of everything else that's going on. Um, so becoming aware is like a very sort of high level sort of tip that I can give in that sense. But then if we start thinking about either, in couples, or like when the topic starts to go into either separation, um, then it's really taking a good look at everything that's going on, even if you haven't been the one that's looking at the money.
Mm.
um, it's kind of when you're starting to go through this process, it's a time for you to say, okay, now there's a level of, responsibility that I need to make sure that I look after myself. And because of that, I want to make sure I understand everything that I have, as well as the partner or the ex-partner has too, between the two of us. So something that's like joined. So if there is a mortgage, understanding exactly how much is in that mortgage, how much is owing, and even knowing if you have an asset together, like a house, um, to the point of understanding how much that house is valued at. So if you need to reach out to a professional, the real estate down the road, just to get it evaluated, so that before you kind of start the process, you understand what the figures are in every way. A really good way to do that is to grab a piece of paper and, write down all the assets and liabilities, all the debts that's owing between the two people, and just know where everything's at. Another thing to focus on is definitely getting some help. So making sure that I actually tell a lot of people this: make the most of the professionals that are around you, professionals either around you or in your area, right? So if you can go to your bank, and if you need to let them know of your situation, that's what's going on, and see if there is anyone you can talk to in relation to the loan that you might have with them already, through like a mortgage, or if there are any personal loans, and what can they do for you. um, Seek out, like, go to your local solicitors, have a chat with them, book free consultations with financial advisors, saying that I want some free information so I know what to do with my money once it comes time to do that. And another thing is to make sure that you've got your own banking, like
Yeah.
your own accounts. It's That's probably one of the most important things, is creating space where you can say, okay, well, this is mine now, even if you haven't had that before while the two of you were together. um, Really allowing yourself to say, okay, from now on, I've got, this is mine, this is my space.
Mm.
And again, some of it can sometimes be confronting, difficult, but those are the sort of things that are going to get you through at times when it is perhaps a little bit tougher.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree. When I went through my separation, I made sure I speak to the right people. What I was very lucky with is that I had my own bank accounts. So obviously, people have either only joint accounts, or have a joint account and then still separate accounts. So how we had done it back then was that we had our separate accounts as well as the joint account. So all the expenses that we had jointly came from that joint account. But we also wanted to make sure that we have our own money. So when we felt like buying something for ourselves, that we could just do that without sort of feeling, oh, we're touching money that was maybe meant to be used for something different, or that way we kept it a little bit separate still. So I think that was a good thing, but I'm not saying that that's the one and only way to do it. So yeah.
Yeah, and that is a good way, because at the end of the day, even if there's a new relationship down the line, sometimes it is necessary to combine the two,
Yeah.
bank accounts. But it's always important for you to feel like, you understand what it is that's going on with your money, and you've
Yeah.
got your own kind of saving, like cushion, I guess, an emergency cushion that you can sort of fall back on. Yeah, so with those tips, I very much, it's very much about what to think when you're kind of going into or during a separation.
Mhm.
um, but there's a few things to sort of think about after as well, to kind of make sure you start on the right path too.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you were, in my intro, I was talking about modalities that you're using, like human design and what is it, money typing or money?
It was yeah, money typing, money archetypes, yeah.
Ah, okay, cool. So are you able, and I know that that's a very spontaneous question, but are you able to talk a little bit about that, and maybe, I don't know if that can be related back to any of the things that we just talked about, but if it can be related, how does it relate?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I'll start with the money archetypes. Money
Mhm.
archetypes is, so there's a lady, she's from, the Institute of Money Coaching, sorry, Money Coaching Institute. She's got a quiz through there, so anyone can go in if you're interested. Go and Google that, and there's a quiz there that you can take. Very easy to do. Based on that quiz, what we do is it produces money archetypes that give us an idea of some areas that you might need some extra assistance in when it comes
Mhm.
to money. And when kind of very similar to what we spoke about earlier on, one of the most common ones that I see is, the innocent, which is one of the archetypes. It's essentially someone who is, having that lower self-esteem when it comes to money, and instead prefers to kind of avoid and let somebody else sort of deal with the money. So that's an example of one of where if we see that, we can say, okay, so obviously there's some, areas around, lack of self-worth that we might need to dig into in relation to money mindset, and start to build that confidence up for
Mhm.
a more, graceful place.
Yeah.
Other ones are, people who get really excited about the new shiny things that they see. So they often find that there's a lot of overspending or impulse buying. And especially if in a relationship, they haven't been the ones focusing on managing the money, and they've perhaps gotten to the habit of doing that, they might find it slightly more difficult outside of the relationship to look out for those things, because they've gotten used to it. And the one thing that happens a lot, and maybe that's something that you might see, after the separation, where women are starting to think about, okay, well, the next step, or the next partner, is that they feel sometimes that the partner will come in and almost save the day, not save the day, but
Yeah.
save, the financial situation, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, again, it's just having that, almost subconsciously, that feeling that of relying on that other person. um, and yeah, I've been talking to a couple of, my clients who have mentioned those things, and it's interesting. It takes something to kind of switch gears for them to realize, oh no, okay, I need to be the one to to look at all this stuff. Um, so that's what the archetypes do. They really help us to just see in which areas they need a little bit more support in, and that can be people in different situations. with human design, the way that I use that, and for those who don't know, human design is a modality. It's made up of multiple different theories, including astrology, the chakra system, just to name a few. And what you do is, if you think of the Myers-Briggs quiz, right, of the personality quiz, instead of taking the quiz, it kind of gives you similar results, not similar results, but like it's the same idea, but without taking the quiz. What you have to do instead is just put your like date of birth and time of birth. So you need to know all that stuff. And based on the planets, it gives you essentially, to an extent, like archetypes as well. But the way that I use that with my clients is really taking it a step deeper and a step further by looking at where they've been conditioned, either during the marriage or while they were younger, to believe that money is something specific.
Yeah.
Maybe that they see that money is evil. If they have money, then, they're greedy, or, looking after their money makes them selfish, or wanting to go out there and make it on their own is selfish. And none of it is bad or good. It's all about, this is just, this is the way you were designed, and this is how you may have been conditioned. Let's clear that stuff, and let's learn from that. And how can you become sort of your own person? So a lot of it is ingrained in people understanding and giving themselves permission to be who they want to be. And sometimes that can be clouded, after perhaps years of being in marriage, or coming out of that and not knowing who they are. Going through that and really hearing these things that make them realize, like, oh, actually, yeah, I've always felt like this, but I thought I was just strange for feeling this way. Like, I thought I was just, that's not how I should have been doing stuff. So it almost gives people permission to just be who they are. And that's, if I could give any advice out of a separation, is to find yourself again. And it's really, really helpful to do that with human design, which is why I use it.
Awesome. So based on what you were saying about the archetypes and the human design, do you think that helps people a lot through their money blocks? I mean, you were saying it has a lot to do with how you're conditioned, and I can certainly say for myself, there have been certain conditions that have been put on me from my parents, which are actually completely different to how I feel about money today. And obviously, I've done a bit of work myself, but we're working together now as well to work through some of my money blocks, and working with human design for me and my abundance mindset and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, using those to help through blocks, do you think it's a very effective tool?
Yeah, 100%. And I like that you use the word, sort of creating that abundance mindset.
Mm.
Um, so when, and I kind of like to take a step back, when when we're growing up, it's very easy for us to hear a lot of stuff from our parents, that's telling us, okay, you should live life like this, or you should do things like this. And it's all coming obviously from a place of, most of the time, from a place of love and protection. But because of the nature of wanting to protect you, a lot of it is about creating barriers, right? Like, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do this. And that automatically, from a young age. Sorry?
Sorry, money doesn't grow on trees or things like
That's
that.
right. Yeah, that's right. And it's really like, in a way, back then when we look at it, it's like a way to teach us, a lesson, right? That, we need to work hard to have what we want and all those sort of things. But because of the nature of it, automatically from such a young age, we're starting to create and develop a scarcity mindset, especially around money. So, yes, when we're starting to look at human design and the archetypes, it's looking deeper within, okay, where is there a possibility for you to have been conditioned? Um, and from there, relating back, it's almost like being able to laser focus on a place. For example, doing things for the purpose of seeking approval, right? So perhaps it could be, sometimes some of us do get even in a relationship because we're seeking a certain level of approval. It might not be it might not be conscious, it might be very subconscious, but it's like getting to that level of, okay, this is where it could be. So it could be in multiple ways where we have been conditioned to sort of believe that we need to do something in a certain way. Another big one is, I think I was kind of alluding to it before, is um, creating goals and creating dreams that are very materialistic. For some people, if you look at their human design, that makes perfect sense. For other people, that's not how you should do it. However, if you look maybe even in the industry that you and I are in, or just in society day to day, um, sometimes setting goals specifically around money, or like being money heavy, can be looked at a little bit like, oh, that's a little bit selfish. You know what I mean? Like, you should be serving and doing all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, 100%. But I'm doing this for something. So I guess it's a way, again, to give people permission to say, well, it's fine if I want to daydream about having those cars and having that mansion. There's nothing wrong with that. So let's work with the design that you actually have and work through those conditions.
I love how you were saying, the serving, and there's a beautiful quote that's called, "I serve, therefore I deserve." So I do believe that money is energy as well. And, yes, I have certain goals around money and certain things about, yes, even material things. But at the end of the day, for me, they're also a vehicle to, have bigger and better goals even, and be able to help more people. So, sometimes money is that vehicle that you need to be able to reach out to more people and support them on their journey, and yeah, help them grow and develop as well. So yes, I love how you were saying that.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. I agree completely.
Yeah. Um, that was pretty much all the questions I had for you for today. But is there anything that you think you want to elaborate more on, or any sort of thing that you think that I haven't mentioned or asked that the listeners today could benefit from?
Yeah, definitely. A couple of things. So, number one, just kind of going based off what we were just talking about, i- if you are in a position where you are coming out of a separation and it's almost like you're not 100% sure where it's going to take you, or financially you're not 100% sure what you need to do, obviously, as you know, I'm sure Jen talks about a lot as well, definitely reach out to people either around you or the professionals in your area, because there's always people that can help. But the one piece of advice that I do like to tell people is to focus on obviously themselves, and when it comes to money, to their values. So really starting to kind of see, well, what is something that I value, no matter what somebody else will tell me or think of me. Um, Now it's the time to take a moment and say, okay, if this is what I value, even if to somebody else it might look like, wasting money or whatever the case is, as long as you've put other things in place, like, maybe you've got, to an extent, a budget, or like a plan in place in relation to your money. Look at those values and say, it's okay if I need to do things that are for me, that are just for me, and are not just like logical. You know what I mean? Um, but obviously, if you need support around setting a plan in place, feel free to reach out to Jen or myself. And another thing that I would say is put some time into thinking about an emergency fund. So this is more now coming from that um, logical state to sort of say it's important to have some money behind you, even if it's a little bit. People usually say 3 to 6 months of expenses. Sometimes that figure can be very overwhelming for people. So, whatever it is, even if it's just a little bit of money that's sitting aside for you to kind of say, okay, if really something happens, I've got some money to fall back on. I think those two pieces of advice is something that I think a lot of people might want to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for that. And if any of the listeners want to find you and, get some help and assistance from you as a money coach to, change their mindset on abundance and money, what's the best way to find you?
The best way is probably Instagram, just seems like the easiest. So I'm madam.wealth on Instagram. That's MADAM. And on Facebook as well, Madam Wealth with Yulia. And you can reach out and ask me any questions. I'm very, very open. I'm not like obligation or anything like that. Have a chat, ask me any questions. I'm happy to be here. Otherwise, I also offer a free 30-minute strategy course.
Awesome. That's really good to know. And when I ever have, clients that need some bit more support, when it comes to their money mindset and building wealth, obviously I will always send them to you, because yes, there is a certain amount of coaching that I can do around money, but I always feel like if there is a little bit more support needed, I will always send them to you, because I know you're doing an amazing job and have helped so many people along the way. So, Yulia,
Thank you.
you're more than welcome. Well, thanks again for spending your morning with me today. And I really appreciate the time you've taken. And I'm so grateful that I got the chance to have a chat to you, all things money and wealth creation. So thank you. And yes, if you do have any questions, visit her Instagram. Otherwise, yes, you can always contact me as well, and I can connect you too. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
If you decide you would like to work with me or would like to know a little bit more about what I do, reach out via call or message and book your 30-minute complimentary breakthrough session either through my website, createagain.com.au, my Instagram at createagain, or on Facebook at createagaincoach. I also have a private Facebook group which provides a safe space and gives you the opportunity to connect with other people that have been through a similar journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends, like, comment and share. I'm so grateful that you have listened today and hope to welcome you back next week. Thank you.